So darkness is an intrinsic part of the universe. Humans have always been fascinated by what darkness is. Last week, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to 3 physicists for their work on black holes. Black holes are cosmic areas where the force of gravity is so strong that not even light can escape. They suck in everything around them. Black holes seem to be places where nothing can exist. And yet, what the research of these scientists revealed is that large-scale black holes seem to lurk in the centers of almost every large galaxy in the observable universe. Their discovery hints that black holes are perhaps the universe's most crucial building blocks for large-scale cosmic structures. So somehow black holes that we thought destroy everything in sight are actually essential building blocks of any planetary system, and therefore the building blocks of life. It seemed so basher to me when I read this that the Nobel Prize was awarded around the time we read Breshit. When we read about darkness and its place in the creation story this week. Darkness is one of the few things that exists before creation. In verse 2, we read, Choshech al pnei tehom. There was darkness over the void, over the emptiness. Darkness is there from the very beginning. Only afterwards does God create light. Many of our commentators thought that darkness had to come before light, that this specific order mattered. My favorite reading of this verse is from Sforno, a Torah commentator, who writes that darkness was a separate specific object of God's creation, and that in his view, God consciously created darkness. Not only that, but God created light through the combination of darkness and tehom, the void, and somehow swirled the two together until God found a small spark of light and created Or, the greater light, from that. According to Sforno, darkness doesn't just come before light. Darkness must exist in order to create the light. This seems strange, but as we just learned from our Nobel laureates, this seems to be an essential truth of the universe. Rabbi Mark Borowitz, the founding rabbi of Beit Tshuva, a residential addiction treatment center, writes that light can only come from darkness because darkness is necessary for the creation of the world to take place, and that darkness and light are intrinsic parts of us as well. He writes, quote, when we are experiencing a dark mood or dark place, we are really in the creative process and something is going to happen, end quote. When we are at our lowest point, it often feels there is no way out, that nothing good will ever come again. Working with those suffering from addiction and being a recovering addict himself, Rabbi Borowitz knows well what it looks like when people hit rock bottom, when it seems to be only darkness surrounding us. Rabbi Borowitz is teaching us that our dark places, our shadows, our pain, if swirled around properly, can sometimes help us find and create something full of light. He says, this darkness is not totally black. There's actually a pinpoint of light at its core. We reach down through the darkness and find luminescence, and suddenly everything becomes brighter, and the solution we are creating comes to light, end quote. When we are brave enough to find the light, there is beauty we can create with and from the darkness. And the darkness doesn't leave with the light. Painful and difficult moments don't disappear, but the light exists alongside it. We're in a dark moment right now for our country and for the world. It's easy to feel that the darkness has subsumed us, and all of us will have days when it does. And yet, we have days when the darkness somehow helps create a new light we did not expect, when something beautiful emerges from the depths. There's a meditation practice called darkness meditation, when you sit completely alone in a pitch black room to meditate. The great modern artist James Turrell did his own take on the darkness meditation that I got to participate in LA at their Modern Art Museum. He created an art piece that asked people to sit in a completely dark room that had only one teeny minuscule speck of light projected in. His idea was that people will just search over and over and over again until they found that speck of light within the deep darkness. His installation confirmed that our brains always strive to find the light. So I'd like to do a little brief darkness meditation with you right now. If you're comfortable, I'm going to invite you to please close your eyes, or if that's a little too much for you, try to find a spot on the wall across from you to focus on. Try, if you can, not to look at the computer. Place your feet on the ground. Take a deep breath in and ground yourself in this moment. And now I want you to imagine a large, all-encompassing black object. What does this darkness look like to you? Notice its shape and its texture. Sit with that darkness, with the choshech, for just a moment. Now imagine light being birthed from somewhere in that darkness. Imagine you are swirling around the darkness to find that small little light. What does your light look like? Is it a spark, a ray, a star, something else entirely? Sit with the light, with the or, for just a moment. How do you feel creating light out of darkness or from the choshech? Take a moment to think of a dark time in your life, a time of unhappiness or disappointment or sadness or illness or loss. Think about how you handled that time. Was there a moment you were able to swirl the darkness around in a different way? Was there a time you were able to find a flicker of light? Sit with that light for just a moment. Take a deep breath in. And when you're comfortable, open up your eyes again. In this new year of 5781, may you have the courage to face the darkness and see the light you can create from the small spark that lives within the deep. Shabbat shalom.